Okay, welcome to this first demonstration of MacGen. Just it's basically an application currently sitting in a database application that generates macro files for use within your Radan software. Usually these macros are written in text editors, and it's quite a long and laborious task, so MacGen was developed for the rapid development of macros. So we'll dive straight in and publish a simple basic macro, ask the user a couple of questions, height and width, and then put some validation on there, draft a rectangle, and then later put some conditional statements in. So I've already started, put a macro name in, I put the paper size and the scale, some macro header notes that have no effect on runtime, they're just purely free text that sits in the macro file, author information, version, etc. Some application settings like the configuration dat folder. Do I want to pin this to the default menu? Yes, I do, with that text and in that menu position. Do I want to include tooling? Yes or no? For this demonstration, we'll leave the tooling out. Okay, so let's dive straight in. So we've got three tables: question instances, symbol instances, and then the macro prompt. So let's start by creating a question, and we'll call this whatever we want, but we'll call this question height. Put the prompt in, what the user will see at runtime. And then a data type, is it numeric or text, a string? It's a numeric. Validation, it's not mandatory, but we'll put some validation in here. So we'll put a minimum value of 200 and a maximum value of 1,000. Next thing we want to do, create another question instance. We'll call this width. Put the prompt that we want the user to see. Enter width. Again, it's a numeric, and we'll put some validation on here. Minimum equals 500. Max equals 1,000. Okay. So skipping down now to the macro command prompt. This is basically how we construct the macro. So the first thing I want to do is ask the question to the user, ask the question height. Notes here have no effect on the macro at runtime, they're purely a field in MacGen to remind the author of the macro how they constructed the macro. The second thing I want to do again is ask the question, and then I want to ask the question width. Okay. So let's generate that macro. So there you go, it's written a text file for us. Okay. Users never really see these macro files, they just sit in the directory within Radan where the macros sit. So let's test it. Okay, so that's loaded that into Radan for me. 500, 500. Okay, so we'll run that again. Try and break the validation. We put a max of 1,000, so if I try 1,200, it's now telling me that was an invalid entry. I'll try it again so you can see that. Invalid, min 200, max 1,000. So 800, and then again try and break the width, put 100 in. Okay. So you can see I've got two questions there with some validation. Alright, the next thing I want to do, I'll add another question here called stiffener, or stiff, we'll call it stiff bar. Uh, Stiffener, stiff bar required, yes or no. This is a text, either uppercase Y or uppercase N, so we put the validation there, only uppercase N and uppercase Y allowed. So I want to ask this question, stiff bar, if the height and the width is, say, greater than 700. So I'll open an if condition, and if height is greater than 699, so equal to or greater than 700, or width is greater or equal to 700, then I want to ask the question instance stiff bar. Because I've opened a conditional statement, I now need to close it. Okay, so let's test that. So that's loaded that macro into Radan for me. So we'll first try below those dimensions so we don't get asked the question. So 500, 300, 500. Okay, so it didn't ask me for the stiffener there. Okay, so we'll try it again. And we'll do a width of 800, a height of 800, and a width of 800, and it should now ask me for the stiffener. Stiffener required, yes or no. If I put an invalid character in like R, it's telling me, so stiff bar required, yes. Okay, so now we've got the questions, we need to do something useful with that. So we'll go about drawing just a rectangle to start. Okay, so once I've got the results of those questions, we're going to draw a rectangle. So draw a line. Well, first thing I'll do is reset the pen. Put the pen in the centre of the screen. Then I'm going to draw a line, and the draw line command uses X and Y coordinates. So I want to draw a line in the X direction of length width, and in the Y direction of 0, so it's a horizontal line. Then I want to go draw a line of length height vertically, so it's 0 in the horizontal direction and of length height in the vertical direction. Draw a line. So again I'm drawing in the horizontal, but now I'm coming backwards with the pen, so it's minus width in the X direction, 0 in the Y. And then again coming down with the pen, minus in the vertical. So it's drawn a rectangle. So let's test that. Okay. So please enter a height, 700. Please enter a width, 500. Do I want a stiffener, yes or no? No. And there we go. It's drawn a rectangle. Okay, so now we want to insert a symbol for the fixing holes for the stiff bar if the answer was yes. So next thing I want to do is I want to open an if condition, and I want to say run this condition if stiff bar equals yes. And then what do I want to do? I want to insert a symbol instance. condition statement. So if they've answered yes to the stiff bar, insert a symbol instance and then end the conditional statement. Okay. So I've got a symbol file called whole sitting in the MacGen directory here. So we'll call this instance, we'll just call it the same, whole. So the instance name is whole and the symbol name is whole. You can have mirror the symbol for that instance, or place it in at an angle. No need for that because it's just a whole. So okay, so I want whole angle 0. Insert the symbol whole, and where do you want to insert it? I want to insert it at in the center of the width in the X direction, and then say 20 mil in the Y direction. Okay, so let's test that. Please enter height, so 800. Please enter width, 500. Do you want a stiffener, yes or no? Yes, I do. There, so it's entered, you can see it's put the symbol there, so a little mistake by me. It's actually width divided by 2 to put that in the centre. Bear with me a second. So yep, let's test that. That should be correct now. So height 700, width 1000. Do I want a stiffener? Yes. And there we can see the symbol's been placed in the centre of the width and 20 mil up. I'll try running that macro again. At this time, answer no to the symbol. No, and it should ignore that symbol insert. Yep. Okay. So that's the first demonstration showing how you can generate your macro files quickly and easily in a much more understandable format from MacGen. Just using tables, creating questions, symbol instances, and then the construction of the macro. The next demonstration will be going into a bit more detail on using the mirrored and angles and using arrays to insert holes or symbols along a variable path. Thank you.